Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel on Data Replication. In this video, you will watch demo on how to configure adaptive apply mapping using InfoSphere Change Data Capture, otherwise known as CDC commonly. So before getting into adaptive apply type of mapping, it is important for us to understand how does adaptive apply mapping differ from the standard apply mapping. In certain business scenarios, if you know that both the source and the target tables are not synchronized, but you want to replicate the data without any error to the target database, or in a data warehousing scenario where you have historical source data, which is huge or humongous amount of data that is available on the source, and you're okay to ignore the historical data and just want to continue applying the transactions without any errors on the target database, then you have to use adaptive apply mapping. So adaptive apply mapping would be mostly useful if the target tables are updated independently of replication, or in other words, if the target tables are being updated constantly by an external application which is independent of your replication platform, then adaptive apply plays a vital role in achieving a synchronization between your source and the target replication data. Or for that it matters if in case you are replaying your existing log entries by setting the bookmark to a specific point in the log, then adaptive apply really helps you to achieve a synchronization between the source and target tables. So in CDC, the operations in the target are basically applied on the target tables, which are identified by the unique replication key. So that the apply thread of CDC basically identifies an appropriate record for the operation from the source to be applied using the replication key. So the replication key can be a primary key, or it can be a combination of a unique indexes, or if the table does not have any primary key or unique indexes, then all the columns or set of columns which could form the uniqueness of a record can be a replication key. In an adaptive apply type of mapping, if the operation of the source is an insert operation, and say for example that insert operation does not result in identifying a record in the target table, so what happens is that insert operation is directly translated into an insert operation on the target. We do not have any issue, but the issue comes when the target table already has a record matching with the same replication key. So typically, say for an example, we have a primary key as a replication key configured in the table mapping, and if the same primary key is already available in the target, in case of adaptive apply, the insert operation on the source results on an update operation on the target. So the insert operation on the source is converted basically to an update operation, applying the most recent values of the other columns of the record which are changed in that particular operation. Keep in mind, in case in case that particular column is not being updated, or a particular column is not being inserted or ignored from that particular transaction, then the specific column in the target may not have the changed value. It might still carry an older value, so which would get overwritten in the future update transactions or in the future delete operations. Let's look at the case when there is an update. So in case of an update operation on the source table, if the apply thread of CDC is able to mine a matching record in the target, then the upload happens seamlessly. But in case of an update operation failing to find a row or an appropriate record in the target table, then the update operation is converted into an insert operation, which results into a newer entry into the target table. So this is how an update adaptive apply type of mapping differs from the standard mapping. Now let's look at a demo in which we will see a business case of replicating between unsynchronized source and the target table with a standard mapping, and how the same business use case works when the replication is configured with the adaptive apply type of configuration. As you see here, I have 4 tables created. So we have 2 source tables and 2 target tables. Source 1 and the target 1 pair would be used for standard mapping scenario, and we will use source 2 and target 2 tables for adaptive apply scenario. So this screen shows you the current records that are available in both source and target tables. So as you notice from this screen, the source table has 3 records, while the target table has only the 2 records. So which clearly indicates both the source and the target tables are out of sync. Now let's go ahead and create a standard apply mapping with source 1 and target 1 and set the capture point to the latest position, so that we start capturing the transactions that are happening on the source from the point of configuring the replication. I'm moving on to the management console, which is an administration client of InfoSphere CDC. I have created my source data stores and the target data store for a demo. Now let's create a standard mapping of, say, let's give it a name as standard sub. Let's select the target for our application. Okay, so now this basically asks me, do you want to map the tables for subscription? Of course, yes. So let me go ahead and map the tables. Now if you look at the options available for me while I'm selecting a mapping type, we have 3 different mapping types. We have a standard mapping, we have a live audit, or an adaptive apply. So for me to show you or compare and contrast between the standard and an adaptive apply, I'm going to first create a standard mapping. So let me choose a standard mapping, and I have created already the source and target tables as I've shown to you. So let's select source 1 as my source table. So now either I have an option of mapping to existing target tables or creating new target tables. In this case, I've already created my target table under the schema called the CDC target. So I'm navigating to my schema and selecting my target 1, which is going to be my target for standard mapping. So once the mapping is completed, so let me finish the mapping. So basically what we have done is we have just created a standard mapping with the source 1 and target 1 as a source and target tables respectively. Now, as I said, we want to leave the data as is on the source and target table and want to continue from the point of my replication configuration. So for that, I need to convert my mapping to, or bring my mapping state from a refresh state to mirroring. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm ignoring a refresh operation by CDC and continuing from the point, from this current point of the database. So once I change the mapping status, if you look at the point here, the status of the mapping changes into active, which denotes that the records in the source and the target database are left as is, and it's going to handle the transactions which are going to start bumping in from this moment. Let me end this editing. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the mirroring of the subscription. Let's start it in the continuous mode. So when the mirroring actually starts in the continuous mode, since we have started from an active point, we don't have any transactions happening, literally there will not be any changes happening to the target database. So let me still do a select on the target table 1. So as expected, we didn't had any rows replicated because there was no transaction performed on the source 1. Now let's try to just do a normal insert operation on source 1. So insert into let's insert with a key of 4. Give me a name as a demo user, and address would be 999. Basically, I'm inserting a new record onto the source 1, and address is give me a name of demo. Perfect. Okay. That's our message. Insert into CDC source 1. That's the value keyword. Okay. Perfect. So let me commit these changes to the source. Now, so since the replication is on, we expect that data to be replicated onto the target. It takes some time. Comment. Here we go. Okay, so we inserted a record with an ID as 4, and you can see it's being replicated at the target. So this is basically to ensure our replication works fine. Now let's go ahead and update the record number 3, which is currently not existing on the target 1 table. Let's update the phone number of ID 3. Update. Let's give some number which we could remember easily. Set phone where ID equals to 3. Perfect. So now let's query the source table and make sure our update is done. As we notice here, so we had the phone number of JP Baxter as 100 and something, and now we have updated on the source to 777, 777, and 77. As you notice, this particular record update operation would definitely fail on the target because the apply thread fails to identify the appropriate record on the target table. Okay, so if you see our replication is ending, that's because of the failure. So now let me refresh the logs to basically look at what is that error. Now let's look into the error message. So as expected, if you look at the error message, it clearly says it failed to update a row in the table. See the target 1 with with the key ID as 3. That the reason is because the ID 3 is not existing on the target, and it is trying to do an update on a row which has an ID of 3. Okay, now let's go ahead and create another mapping with an adaptive apply of configuration and let's repeat the same scenario that we did. Let's give this a name, adaptive sub. Let's choose the both the same source, demo source, and demo target as the source and target respectively. Let's start with the mapping. Now we'll use the mapping type as adaptive apply, and we will choose source 1 as the source 2 as the source for our adaptive apply, and target 2 as a target table for our adaptive apply target table. We get to my schema, CDC target, and there you go, target 2. So once the source tables and target tables are chosen, let's finish the replication, and as in the case of the standard apply mapping, similarly we'll also change that to active state just to make sure we start capturing the transactions from the moment of from the current state. Let's end the editing and let's start the adaptive subscription. Okay, so let me retrieve the latest logs just to make sure things are working fine. Okay, let's go and repeat the same steps. So the first step that we did was inserting values onto source 1. So now let's insert some values on source 2. Let's insert the same value with the record number 4 into source 2. Perfect. So let's commit the data. Let's make sure the data has gone into the source 2. Let's also make sure that data that we inserted has gone into the target table. Okay, so as you see, our new record has successfully got inserted. Now, here is the difference between the standard apply and adaptive. If you can recollect from the standard mapping, we try to update a row on the source which was not existing on the target, and the update operation failed because it was not able to find an unique row on the target. Now let's do the same update operation on source 2 with the same phone number and the same ID which is not existing on the target. Perfect. So let's commit and let's verify if it is applied on the source. Okay. If you look at this record, the phone number has changed, whereas the previous case was 100 and so on. Now let's look at how the data is replicated to the target. If you notice in this section, in the previous select statement, we just had 3 records and we had an updated on the source, which now does an insert on the target. So this is the crux of the adaptive apply, right? So it converts the update operation into an insert operation if it fails to find that specific row. Now, during my introductory talk about what are the use cases on adaptive apply, I talked about an external application updating or performing DML operation on the target tables, which is independent of your replication setup. Now let's try to simulate uh, by inserting a record onto the target directly. Insert into target 2 values with the key ID as 5, and let's give the name as James. Let's give the address as Warden Avenue, Toronto, and email ID. Okay. Not enough values. Okay, I guess I missed some values. Okay. I missed the phone number of James. Okay. Let me give it number. And then it should be fine with the rest of the values. Good. So let's commit the data and let's make sure the data is got into target table. Okay, so this is the current state of my target table having 5 records, and to refresh our memory, let's get the latest records on the source. Okay, so the target now has 5 records, whereas the source has only 4 records. Now, what if there is an insert with the same key onto the source and the replication is on? Now, let's try to do a similar insert on the source with the values as 5, and let's change some of the other keys. Let's keep the name as James. Let's change the phone number to 888. Let's just vary some of the columns and let's see how it goes. Okay, so let's commit the changes on the target on the source and make sure the data that we inserted on source is there. Okay, now you see the source has got 5 records, but the target already had a record with the same ID or the same replication key as 5 and the name is James, but some of the other columns had a different value in the target, but the values inserted in the source were different. Now let's look at what is the actual reflection on the target after the same record with the same replication keys inserted on the source. Now if you look at once the source is inserted, the target record, which was 5, which was having an ID as 5 on the target, has now been changed to reflect the latest update or the latest insert statement of the source. So basically what has happened here is the insert on the source is converted into an update operation because the apply thread basically found an existing match for an insert, and instead of throwing an unique key violation and error because of an adaptive apply, it was intelligent enough to convert that insert operation to an update operation, updating the columns with the latest value of the insert that happened on the source. I hope you enjoyed watching my video, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more demos on InfoSphere CDC, as well as watch out this space for upcoming features on IBM Data Replication product. Thanks everyone.